right. Starting off strong with a new Felix and Friends episode. We got a great guest today. Renzo, how about you introduce yourself and tell the folks who you are? You've had a crazy backstory, and we've known each other for many
For sure.
years.
Thanks, Felix.
Tell us who you are and what you're currently up
We've known
to.
each other for about 10 years, or a little more than 10 years, but my name is Renzo Mejia. The principal at Mejia Strategies LLC. We're a consultancy focused on commercialization projects and regulatory projects and other projects in the cannabis space. We're based here in Chicago. We've worked with clients all over the world. More recently with the Shinnecock tribe out in East Hampton, helping them out on dispensary operations. We've also worked with some brands out in Peru, some of the only cultivation licensee, the only processing licensee in the country Peru, not the city Peru in Illinois, but the country, the Republic of Peru. I was born in Peru, so have a soft space in my heart for Peru and in the burgeoning cannabis industry down there. But my background is in last 12 years has been in cannabis. So I helped open up Dispensary 33 back when they were the first dispensary, the first Chicago dispensary to open up, medical dispensary. Was there for a little bit, shout out Zeises, and left from there to go work at GTI. So GTI at that time, I was probably like the ninth employee at GTI. Yeah, so I did wholesale. So shout out Matt Levine, shout out Ben Culver for the look, but that was when Ben Culver was still doing all the interviews for all the employees. So got a chance to be one. I think I was a second wholesale employee, wholesale rep. I was in charge of half of the state at the time. Was there for about a year and a half. So I saw them go from 8 employees to hundreds of employees across the country and a public company. So that was exciting. And then from GTI, went over to work at Verano. Similar story. Verano was ataraxia at the time. Again, one of the first 5 employees at ataraxia at the time, working under Sammy Dorf, one of the co-founders there, and basically learned everything there is to learn about licensing, M&A, and really how to start the businesses, how to work with local governments, how to work with local partners to start these businesses. So for example, the first project that we worked on was securing Nevada licenses, and we were, I think, one of the most successful entities in the state at the time for the Nevada licensure. We also were I worked on the application for New Jersey, so worked on, and subsequently we won one of the first, I think one of the 3 or 4 or maybe 6 New Jersey licenses, and those were vertically integrated licenses. And worked on a ton of applications. So again, worked on really the front end of the business. So getting licenses, writing the applications, working with the attorneys, working with accountants, working on pushing paper, essentially pushing a lot of paper. Which before then I had more operational kind of expertise on the retail side and on the cultivation wholesale side. So was at Verano for 3 years, and again, one of the first 5 employees there. And saw that company go from a small privately owned to a large publicly traded entity with hundreds again of employees across the country. And at Verano, again, I think that also gave me more of a national view of the cannabis business. Was able to go all over the country, open up dispensaries, and do a lot of M&A, going and buying entities, operating entities, selling entities as well. So again, that opportunity, again, shout out Sammy Dorf for the opportunity. Worked directly under Sammy the whole time, and gave me a really clear view of opportunities in cannabis long term. And from Verano, I got poached to go work at Air Wellness to do kind of new markets. I was the senior vice president of new markets. So again, similar kind of new market development role, writing applications, getting licenses. And then also, I think I was able to learn more a lot of the financial side of the businesses, and learn kind of like how to read a financial statement, learned how to read a 10K, learned how to read and how to decipher if a pitch deck or if a brand makes sense for an acquisition, for a partnership, a licensing, whatever it was. So again, I was able to learn more of kind of the corporate work that goes in more from more like a Wall Street type of team, MBA team, which I think Verano and GTI was very different experience. And then left Air, was laid off with about 10% of the staff. And then that kind of forced me to continue some of the consulting work I had started at Verano, and was part of a team basically that won some licenses here in and helped work with local clients here in Illinois to win some dispensary licenses here. And also currently working with some clients internationally out in Peru. And also, again, last year, give or take, wrapped up an engagement with the Shinnecock tribe, helping them build out their retail concept that they opened up out in East Hampton. But really excited about kind of where the industry's going. Also kind of tired.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa. That's too damn bad.
It's been a century, right? No, it's been a decade. Excuse me, a whole more than a decade that we've been in the biz, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But yeah, right now working on an interesting, new, exciting project that I can't talk about too much right now, but I'm really excited about it. We'll definitely have an announcement at some point soon. But in the meantime, I am releasing an ebook on kind of the MSO fall from grace, at least in terms of stock prices. So that'll be out today on my Instagram. So my Instagram is Chef Mejia 420. So Chef Mejia 420, and that ebook will be in my in the link in my profile. It's for free. Won't ask for anything, no money. I don't want any money. I just want people to know, hey, and kind of know how we've gotten to where we're at today, so that we can have a better idea of kind of where we're going as an industry. But yeah, I started in the industry. I just wanted to smoke weed. I like smoking weed. And also, I think for context, when I was at Rono as well, was also the first person in the state of Illinois to buy recreational cannabis for the whole state. So I was in the newspaper. It was the AP picked it up. I was all over the news. Sorry, Lieutenant Governor Stratton. I know that you were also in the newspaper, and I know that they also said you might have been the first person, but IDPR confirmed I was the first person in the state to buy MSO dispensary weed legally. So I'm excited kind of what I've done personally to contribute to the industry, but I also know that we still have a long way to go. But again, I got into the industry because I just like smoking weed. I just wanted to smoke good weed. I was excited about the prospect of people not going to jail for smoking weed or possessing weed. My little brother caught a charge, kind of not long after I started in the business. Caught a charge, a really simple like 2-ounce possession charge. And he got, the cops screwed him over. They were like, hey, you're distributing because you got it for your friend, even though he wasn't selling it. So I saw firsthand the injustice with my brother. I was lucky enough to not have had any trouble. I was a pretty good drug dealer in terms of like not getting caught. But I was selling weed out of my mom's basement window. I couldn't even leave. I couldn't even be bothered to leave the house to sell weed. I had a window. We lived in the basement of a 3-flat. I would sell weed to people, mostly adults, mostly grown adults in their 40s, out of my little window in my bedroom. So obviously my mom was like, hey, dude, what are you doing? Don't be an idiot. You can't be doing that out of the apartment. At least leave the apartment. But I would sell weed, and then my mom found some weed, and eventually it was like, Renzo, get out, and like threw me out of the house for a bit. We reconciled like not long after, but yeah, weed has been a big part of my life for a long time since I've been smoking weed. It would have been 20 years. Recently, like stopped drinking, stopped smoking, stopped consuming all kind of substances, and it's been interesting. It's been interesting the kind of the cognitive cleanse that happens with that, but I still love the plant. I still love the potential, the medical potential of the plant as well. The benefits that we see cannabis giving to folks that in pain, that are aging, that just want to have a good night's sleep. So I still believe in the medical benefits of cannabis, and I'm so excited about where the cannabis industry as a whole is kind of going and where we're moving to. But yeah, weed is a fucking like I could talk all day. I could talk all day about weed and kind of where we're at and where we're going.
I mean, that's why we're in this business and why we've stuck around so long, because it's, it's when you do something you love for work, it doesn't really become work, even though it does definitely work.
Versus like the legacy market guys that fucking don't have to pay tax or whatever. I'm not gonna gripe, but I think when we started, the lines between legacy market and regulated was kind of blurry a lot of times because people.
I mean, I would tell people that I work at a dispensary, and they would be like, "That's illegal. Why would you tell me that?" And it's like, "What?" I was like, "No, look, I have a badge from the state of Illinois. Like, they know that I'm doing this. They approve my background." And now you tell someone that you're like, "Oh, you like." I purposely don't say it because it starts a conversation a lot of times. It's like, "Nope, I work in sales," and then people like, don't ask about sales. But if you say, "Oh, I sell cannabis," "Oh, wow, like I had a gummy once," and it's just like
it's definitely work.
It's nice to see the difference in social stigma as well.
It's definitely
Yep.
gone down, especially here in Illinois. I think before it was pretty conservative. Even
Yep.
for Chicago, we're a liberal bastion of the Midwest, but I'm excited to see kind of where we go. And
Yep.
we kind of talked about this earlier. Like, we're tightening up as an industry. We're getting better. We're getting sharper. But I want us to continue to respect where we came from. At least acknowledge. Like, you don't have to respect, but at least acknowledge that this industry is an industry that was kind of not built on the backs, but at least it started on the backs of a lot of folks that are still in jail, right? For possessing it, for proliferating the culture and respecting the culture. But I think the MSOs. I'm excited to see
we're
kind
seeing,
of where,
and my book talks
where
about
we
this,
go,
like,
and
99% drop.
we kind of talked about
in
this
market
earlier. Like, we're
value.
tightening up
And
and
we're getting
better,
market
we're getting
cap, right?
sharper.
Any
But,
other industry, people would be in jail.
I want
Any
us
other
to
industry,
continue
the insiders,
to
the executives
respect
would
where we
be
came
in jail
from,
for
at least acknowledge
market
You don't have to
manipulation,
respect
whatever.
it. At least
There'd
acknowledge
be
that
something here. There'd be
this
some
industry
uproar on behalf of
is
retail
an
investors.
industry that was
We're not going to see that in cannabis. I
not
don't think
built on the
especially
backs, but at least it
administration
started
now,
on the
and
backs of a lot of folks that are still in jail,
but
right? For possessing
I
it,
think,
for
we
proliferating
have a long
the
way to go
culture
for
and
cannabis
respecting
to be
the culture.
taken
But
as a
I think
serious industry.
I think the MSOs,
but again,
it's up to guys like me.
I think we're seeing, and my book talks about this, like 99% drops in market value and cap, market cap,
I think
right?
there's no shortage of good people.
Any
in
other
cannabis,
industry, people
but,
would be in jail. Any
that-
other
I think
industry,
that has-
the
passion,
insiders,
like
the executives would
paid
be
in
in jail
experience,
for
paid in exposure,
market
where, like,
manipulation, whatever.
reminds me of like the
There'd
Oregon
be
Trail where
something
you
here.
die of
There'd be some
exposure.
uproar on behalf of
But
retail
yeah, it's
investors.
definitely like it's people are taking
We're
like
not gonna see
advantage
that
of it
in
in the
cannabis, I don't
beginning, or
think,
because like,
especially
oh, you're
with the
super passionate
administration
about
now
cannabis, like
and
awesome,
kind of
this
the
is a
environment that we're
great
in now,
career
but
path for you.
yeah, I
And in
think,
some cases it was, but if you're a
we have a long way to go
a
for
single
cannabis to
store
be taken as a
operator,
serious
and
industry.
you're claiming that like your entry level bud
But again,
position is going to be this
it's up
career
to
into the
guys like
cannabis
me and
industry,
you
like
to
with your own
continue
company,
waving the
it's going to be a
flag
hard.
of cannabis,
There's like very little mobility in dispensary
professionalism,
unless
we'll
you
call
have
it.
like a corporate backing where you can go
'cause
to
I
like
think there's
other
no
corporate
shortage
jobs or other kinds of like
good
that.
people in cannabis, but that I think that has.
I think, and it's harder now, right? I think before you would see that kind of
dispensary to wholesale pipeline, or even dispensary to corporate pipeline, and like it's hard to do that now because the MSOs and the big corporations, they don't really care about weed knowledge. They don't really care about weed passion. I think they actually see it as a negative now, because they want to bring in people from traditional CPG, alcohol, tobacco, because they see them as adding value and kind of a professional skill set, which I understand. But that being said, you don't have to smoke weed to be in the weed industry.
It's hard.
It helps. But yeah, if you're there as a wholesale rep and you don't have knowledge of your product, firsthand knowledge, imagine someone selling wine and being like, "Oh, I'm actually 30 years sober and I've actually never even tried."
Liken it to being the vegetarian in the butcher shop. Like, yeah, you can technically sell it, but like, are they going to trust you or the actual butcher who grills every night, like the steak that he brings home?
Everyone trusts a very skinny, like everyone trusts the big dude that's like sweating. Yeah, it's fire. It's gonna be fire if the guy's a little chunky. But that being said, yeah, I don't think you have to smoke weed to be in the industry, but it definitely helps to keep you invested in the industry and keep you.
At least being like pro cannabis and like very pro stoner too. Like don't look like, yes, you might be like, oh yeah, it's okay that people leak it, but like, man, these people that smoke weed before work, like that's ridiculous. This and that is like, yeah, you joined the cannabis industry. Like, this is for people that are passionate about cannabis. Like, they are going to be cannabis consuming stuff like that. And just like with any industry, there's going to be idiots who consume too much or too little. I think there's a lot of idiots that consume too little, actually.
No, I saw a video. 100%. No, I saw a video the other day of like in the 80s in Detroit, they did a story about postal workers in Detroit, like just getting ripped, like just drinking like fucking Mad Dog 2020, like just ripping a whole bunch. And then like literally the news outlet went to the garbage can in the parking lot of the postal office for Detroit, the big one, the big distribution center, and he like pours out like literally just bottles and empty bottles. So like the idea that they're and it's consistent across the industry that you shouldn't get fucked up before you go to work. But if you can do your job, and especially if there's a medical necessity, like that's different. But also there has to be a fine limit there, because if your consumption is lowering the quality of customer interaction that you're having, That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's for most businesses, for any business.
And also like hoity-toity CEO in your ivory tower, like you're not going to get down and dirty and like shovel garbage or do what, like all the postal work or whatever kinds like that. Like, so yeah, let them have a beer or something.
Yeah, this is a very Danish. This is a very European. Like, a little wine is fine.
Actually, when I lived over in Denmark, they would the house my mom lived in. There was a bottle opener on a chain nailed right to the garbage can, like right there. And I was just like, "Why is this here?" And I was like, "She's like, oh, like you often, if you have the garbage a little bit too full, there's an extra bag there. You would put a 6-pack or some beers out there for the like as a tip, and then." Is so they can consume it when you get it. There's a bottle opener there, so they can just open the tip.
As long as he's
and
not
just
driving, as long as he's not driving the fucking thing, like, all right, fine. He's like, if he's in the back, like throwing it in there, okay, cool. But if he's like fucking with a fucking massive 30-ton garbage truck, just kind of like ripping around the Danish fucking countryside, I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe, and I don't know. That for me is like, that's like.
Hopefully it was the guy in the back, yeah, because I agree with you. You shouldn't be drunk. You shouldn't be driving and being intoxicated. But if you're just throwing trash in the back, maybe a beer on the route is not going to be the worst.
I think you deserve a beer if you're fucking handling trash like that all the time. But also, like, I think it makes your job a little harder. I would think, like, if you're like,
there's a fine line between like being like helping the boredom and then being extremely dangerous.
I get that more than again. So I would, when I was a budtender, I would smoke before. I noticed in my personal experience, I couldn't sell weed as good if I was out of my mind.
Yep. Makes sense.
And for me personally, even non-cannabis work or even non-retail work, it's just harder for me to collect my thoughts if I'm like ripping fucking quarter-gram dabs to start off the day, or smoking a fucking 3-gram joint with a fucking donut or something. Like, I'm just like, I can't function and work the best like that myself. I know some people that can, but again, now that I haven't been smoking, I know my motivation is a little different. My cognitive speed is a little different in a better way. But yeah, I'm excited to see where the industry's going. I'm excited. I'm working on an exciting new project, kind of related to the drinks, and it's interesting to see the new formulations that people are really kind of. And this is non-cannabis people. These are people that really have never smoked. They're starting to move away from alcohol and don't want to smoke. They don't want to smoke a joint. They don't want to smoke a fucking dab. They don't want to.
Inhaling burning plant material is never going to be the healthiest option.
So they're looking at these drinks. They're looking at cans of, again, and these are direct to consumer brands. So that for me is also very exciting. On the back end of it, though, we're seeing states clamp down on the THC drinks, and we're seeing some states stay away from the discussion and let kind of things go as they go. Or as they've been playing out. So it's interesting in the fragmentation that we see in the regulated space. We're seeing that fragmentation in the Delta 9 drink space, and so I think it's important to note that we've almost now combined Delta 9 and THC as we know it. Now it's either intoxicating or not intoxicating, right? Like it's either fucking THC, Delta 9, or THC from Dispensary, whatever it is, either that world or like this other shit like like CBD. But now it's like the 7OH or whatever the fuck stuff.
Yeah, it's like synthetically derived weird
stuff.
It's
chemicals, and there's nothing to do with cannabis. And again, some of the stuff usually isn't even coming from the U.S. It's coming from fucking China. It's always like all the crazy shit that kills the U.S. Americans is always like it's kind of coming from China. Whether it's our fucking, I'm not gonna get too crazy in the geopolitical stuff. Shout out China, though. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for all of our consumer goods and all of our electronics, for that matter. But yeah, I think it's tough to start. I mean, every time you make a law, then they just kind of change one little molecule, and then they just make a new thing. So whether it's kratom, whether it's spice, I think there are certain things though that are having disastrous effects on society. And I mean, especially when you talk about getting kids access to them and restricting access to kids, like nobody is going to advocate for children under the age of 18, even 21, getting access to mind-altering substances that could permanently change their brain structures and their cognitive abilities.
And I'm all for like having access to these ones, but it also needs to be like safe to some degree. Like when I was first started working in dispensaries and like pretty much switched 100% to only consuming lab tested, I'm not gonna sound like a dispensary shill here, but like only smoking lab tested products that I came from like the Illinois products where like it was very high thresholds. I actually noticed like my headaches went away, my stomach pains went away. I started feeling like I just these health issues I was having like ongoing for a long time were just kind of like gone all of a sudden. And so it's just like, oh, maybe there was something. And then you smoke one of your buddies, I got some of this, and like immediately you rip it, and you just get a headache immediately. It's just like, wait, what is in this, And so like I'm for more access to cannabis as long as it's like clean cannabis. They should be held up to like if you're getting something from an online source, they should be held to the same accountability as like the dispensaries.
Some minimal level of lab testing, but also let's talk about like why lab test. No one really trusts lab test results.
It's true.
So having some national level of consistency or standard for our labs, because if we continue to use the route that we've had in terms of lab testing and licensing labs, and not and really very minimal verification or third party testing beyond the state regulated lab kind of structure, if we continue with this route, consumers are figuring it out, and they're going to continue to find out. They're going to continue to realize that we cannot trust the labeling that we are seeing on packaging. So they're already kind of figuring it out in some markets, like developed markets.
As far as like cannabinoid percentages.
So if that's happening on the dispensary side, and if the crux of our argument for people to come to dispensaries is come in, our shit is lab tested. But then on the other hand, they're seeing that they're seeing news results that MSOs are paying for pad lab results. That kind of negates the whole argument for people to go to dispensaries, and that will continue to push people to the black markets, so these smoke shops, and also this direct-to-consumer route that people obviously, and we're even seeing MSOs kind of acquiescing to some extent and being like, if you can't beat them, join them, and starting to roll out these kind of direct-to-consumer Delta 9, whether it's drinks, gummies, whatever it is. So we, as an industry, we have to let's tighten the fuck up. Let's tighten the fuck up. Laboratories, you know who the fuck you are. Tighten the fuck up, because you guys paying these companies are getting paid by these MSOs to pad lab results, sometimes by 5, 10, 20, 10 points. If you're padding that, then you might be also padding the heavy metals, the residuals, and all this other shit. That, again, these are going to have long-term detrimental effects to the consumer. And that is not sustainable.
Even beyond like taking off the tin hat here, but even just like beyond like whether the results are padded or not, if you're as a grower, an MSO, or whoever optimizing for only THC, and then like the consumer like loses faith in cannabis because they try a 32% cannabis, that should be better than a 20%, and it should be way better than a 16 or 14%. But yet when they smoke a 14% or, on accident, right, because they would never purposely buy a 14% one, they realize like, oh wait, this actually has more flavor, or I got almost just as high as the 32%er. So then it's like, wait a second, what does this even mean? And I think that's where like education needs to come in more, and just like more awareness of like the actual plant. I mean, how many people have you met that have been, smoking 5-10 years who have never actually seen a live cannabis plant growing?
100%.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people that are going to the stores, they don't know that it is like kind of how we were talking about earlier. It's not necessarily a commodity crop right now. It is a specialty one. It's very much farmers market. There is good batches, there's bad batches, and like to assume that every batch is going to be exactly the same is like not paying like homage or even being realistic of what the plant is.
And I think that education gap that's existed from the beginning is, and it's only exacerbated as we have more stores, as we have more dispensaries, at least in Illinois. That knowledge gap we as an industry, really the MSOs as a concept, need to continue to invest in consumer education, not marketing. We're talking about educating the consumer, because it benefits them in the long term. It benefits the consumer to know that flavonoids are part of the cannabis plant. The terpenes are great. But I think we've done such a bad job. I think because there was a time where I remember in the industry where we were like, terpene profiles. Terpenes are what gets you high, not the THC. And it's like we kind of oversimplify things, and we take for granted.
So like, eat a mango, you'll get higher. It's like, not all mangoes, just like the cannabis plant, not all mangoes have myrcene in them, or they have varying levels of myrcene.
Us taking a cookie cutter approach to patient education and consumer education is kind of not the best route. So we have to be just realistic and really respect the consumer enough to educate them at a certain level, and not kind of dumbing things down just because it's harder to explain, or it takes more time to explain, or it doesn't fit on a nice little postcard or a T-shirt slogan, whatever it is. We just have to be more conscious of that, and I think that comes from leadership at the MSOs as well. Leadership has to get on board with not only this being organizational and an organizational priority, but also
throwing the money behind it. These things are not free.
Yep.
And I think it's important just to have some leadership buy-in on this thing, because if leadership isn't on board, then it's not going to happen.
No, and like they want more like sales, and like if the consumer's more educated about a product and know like why they should buy it, like they're not going to buy it unless they know they have a problem. Like the consumer, if they don't know that they're smoking bad flower or there's other stuff that's better than what they're currently smoking, or you're not, I don't even think brands need to be better. They just need to be different, right? It's not necessarily I'm better than this one. It's we prioritize these three things. We're really good at doing this. Like this brand is about nature. We're about not adding artificial terps, and we're about small buds. And like this is what we optimize for. We're not going to be a 3/8 jar kind of stuff like that. But it's going to be all natural. And guess what? $2 or $3 goes to the National Park Service. Like I think finding like your niche in that.
No one's giving away their fucking. No one's gonna give away their.
No, I mean this is pie in the sky thinking, but like
and better is also subjective, right? It's like hard to say what is better.
Yeah, exactly.
Different is kind of easy to figure.
Because we might agree that me and you might agree that a live rosin that's fresh pressed that 2 minutes ago is going to be way better than a 5-gram jar of distillate. But to the same another consumer would be like, well, I paid $80 for that 5-gram jar of distillate, and you guys paid $80 for a single gram. Like, I think the 5-gram is better. That's better for me.
And I don't. But also, I don't. If you explain to that consumer that 5-gram of distillate is not going to do what you want it to do, like it's going to get you some effect. But if you're buying a 5-gram thing of distillate, in this example, just go buy some fucking 7-8 at that point. Just like if you want to get fucked, go smoke some kratom. Like at that point, like you're disrespecting yourself. Right? You're disrespecting by putting that shit in your body. Because I've noticed when, for example, in East Hampton, we had a $300 3-gram bucket or 2.5. I forget what it was. It was 2 to 3 gram baller bucket that we put out there for $300. It was the most expensive SKU they had in the store. We had to invest more time and invest in educating the consumer to justify that price and to get across to them why that would give them a better end result, and why long term that's better for your health. Long term it's going to be better for, and I'll tell you packaging as well. We obviously invested in the packaging and did a whole bunch of shit, but it was.
They understand that this is a live plant that's harvested like within 2 hours. It's fresh frozen. Then it is like at this crazy freezer. It's like down to sub 40 degrees Celsius. Then we sift it and we wash it with this thing like that. There's 2 or 3 people that takes a couple of days to do this, a full day. Then we wash it or dry it in our cryovac, and then we press it with this other machine, and then we get this 0.01 return back. And this is the best of the plant. Then it's like, oh, that you went through a lot of products to make that little bit. Like, and then guess what? Like that education part is like, it is marketing, like learning like about that, but it's like, it's more beneficial marketing and not just like, check out these cool colors.
Check out my new hologram or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And I think, the consumer, the education piece will justify your premium price, but that education piece assumes that you have staff that are going to be knowledgeable enough to be able to get that message across.
And then also like a marketing team that can deploy it, and then also like being creative enough to get around. If you're running paid ads, you need to learn how to like do those kind of ones. It takes a lot of effort to do marketing, which is I understand why it's often outsourced and outsourced incorrectly.
But again, if your in-house marketer came from Nabisco and is used to selling a cracker that has a shelf life of fucking 3 years, that's ultra processed and all this, like. They're not gonna know. They're not gonna know the intricacies of the production cycle for a product, $100 a gram product, even $150 a gram type of product like a live rosin,
which is just degrading every day on the shelf.
In the freezer, if you're lucky. If you're lucky, you have a freezer. No, but
and hopefully it was transported correctly.
There's so many parts of the supply chain and the distribution chain where it's like you could fuck it up. Even in the as you process it, we don't. Sometimes consumers don't realize how hard it is to produce a good end product, whether it's the flour, the source material, or the hash at the end of it. But I think when you explain it to them, when you show them, for me, it was always easiest to be like, hey, this is a gram of some bullshit live resin that's cheap. And then I got this. I think I also got this, the live rosin. That's not cheap, but it's so much
Yep.
better. And then letting them smell, to your point earlier about the deli style, putting it in
Yep.
their face and then being like, oh wow, poop swoop. It's cool. It's cheap. Oh, it smells like shit. And then putting that live rosin, like it was it was the easiest sell.
Yep.
Obviously, there was some embellishments in terms of the packaging and how we presented it and how we even would talk about it. All that stuff plays into it.
Because if you have that same bud tender being like, I can't afford this. This isn't, you don't even like you. If you have the money, it's okay. Like it is good, but whatever. Like if you don't have that person to present it in a way where it's like there is this or there's this, or if it's like there's this or there's that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're or if I've had customers that come up to the thing or the bud tender being like, you're paying that much for that. Like bud tenders often do like their consultation based off their own budget and not thinking of what the customer is going to be
100%.
buying.
I think letting go of that internal bias as well, and not assuming when they walk into the door that, again, like, yeah, taking ourselves out of our own situation. But yeah, every person's different. Every bud tender is different. Shout out the bud tenders though, man. You guys do tough work. It's not getting easier to be a bud tender. It's retail at the end of the day, and it's hard work. And again, we talked about it earlier. It's tough to make those jumps. No one wants to stay in retail their whole life for the most part, right? Most people want to make a jump into management or corporate. Some people are okay with being in retail, like it's their second career or whatever. But it's becoming harder to make that jump from retail to wholesale, like I did.
And no one wants to be on a register their career.
But again, some folks are retail people through and through. They've worked at Crate and Barrel or some shit. They were management there, and they transferred. And they know retail. They know customers. They know human interaction, social interaction. But again, everyone's different. All their aspirations are different. But to your point, like taking ourselves out of our own frame of reference and just like letting the consumer dictate what their budget is, what they're looking for, and taking our internal biases out of that discussion, I think is hard. But yeah, there's some folks that just shouldn't be in retail.
I do think my experience on the sales floor of a dispensary has helped me throughout my career immensely. I don't know if other people can necessarily follow the same career path that I took in today's world. I think it's possible, but it was a lot easier for me. And like when we were back, just to kind of make those moves. But yeah, I'm forever grateful for like learning that kind of stuff and just the trends that are in the purchasing patterns. And just kind of seeing those dispensary floor interactions, because that's really where the magic happens. Like if those interactions weren't happening, all the flower produced, everything else like that would be kind of for nothing, right? It would be
that retail experience is why I was able to have the opportunity that I had at Rano. Why I got my job at GTI as a wholesale rep was because I had the experience on that other side working with consumers. But I think that's a good tip for folks that want to break into the business and maybe don't want to start at the corporate route or can't get into the corporate route because they don't have a traditional corporate background. Just fucking be a bud tender. Go be a bud tender. And again, I started when we were making $15 an hour. Do you remember what your hourly was when you started?
I was hired on as like $18.75 or something. At Columbia Care at TGS, I was making like $15 or $20. And then I went to my one of my mentors in the ag department, and I was like, "Hey, like they're offering me this," and he kind of like stopped what he was doing, got really serious, and looked at me and goes, "You do know the ag education majors make more than that?" And they were the running butt of the whole department joke. Like they're like, you can go into whatever field you want, but they make the least amount of money out of this whole department. The ag education, like they're basically doing what we're doing and we make nothing, right? We're here because we love doing this. It was, and then like even during the interview with the person, which I later became like good friends with, the HR rep. But she was like on the interview, I was like, well, I'm doing this. I have all this stuff like that. And she's like, well, you claim to know all this stuff, but we don't know if you actually do. And like, this is a lot of like cannabis stuff. None of us really know all this stuff. And like, you could just be saying all this, and like within, a couple of months, I did get like a $5 an hour raise. So I got up to like that 23 something, like pretty quickly. But it was like, what am I doing here? Like went to school, like I have a related degree in agriculture, and now I'm here working in like a retail position where I could have just, I was working at delivery Jimmy John's, averaging $22 an hour with tips, and it was just like, why would I be like, what was I doing wrong here? And then, but yeah, then it's like the opportunities come, and then it's like, to your point of just being a bud tender, you meet sales reps, you meet field reps, you meet like interaction with other potentials like that you'll get in the ecosphere, where if you're not part of that, it is kind of cliquey, the cannabis industry. And if you're not like part of the industry, it's kind of like, oh, nice, that's cute. But if you're anyone in, it's like, oh, cool, all right, found it. You know.
Not only do you have to be in it, but you have to be knowledgeable. Like you can definitely sniff out a corporate kind of conversion person that
Yeah.
alcohol. Those guys never kind of one. They don't really like. They look at cannabis themselves and they're like, "Oh my god, this thing's a fucking mess." Like this is.
Or they get excited when they see open bar at a cannabis event, where all the rest of us are like, "Is there open cannabis? We can't consume, but there's why is there alcohol here?"
And also, I think that's that's kind of bad about the cannabis industry that we kind of look down on alcohol. We're like, "Oh my god, alcohol!" But then we're over here just like ripping butane in the car. Yeah, like so we have to also. I think as an industry has to kind of be like. We have to kind of be not humble ourselves, but also realize where we are in relative to other industries. We are such a small industry compared to alcohol, tobacco, consumer packaged good, any traditional CPGs, fast moving CPG. We're so fucking small, so we have to just like also like bring down our egos as well and be like, fuck, we are just starting. We have 10 plus years of cannabis in Illinois, and maybe 20 or something, 25 in California with medical. We're not that old. We're not that big. We have to humble ourselves a little bit and realize where we stand in terms of the traditional business world. We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
I was at a wedding a couple of years ago, and the father of the groom, he was very successful in like a pharmaceutical chemistry and stuff like that. He's like actually like the formulator and does all stuff like that. Worked for big companies, you name it. He's worked for them. And he looked down at me. He's like, "Oh, so what do you do?" I was like, "Oh, I work in the cannabis industry." And I didn't realize that required an industry. Oof. And I was just like, "Oh, twist the dagger," and like that. And I just was like, "What?" Like I went to my wife. I was like, "Can you believe he said that?" He's like, "Yeah, I can believe it." And like I brought it up a couple of times. She's like, "Man, that really hurt you." And I was like, "Yeah, but yeah." It was just like that is. It's like yeah, it is an industry, but yeah, to your point, it is super small.
It's still super small, and I think again we have sometimes the cannabis host because the weed is the industry is so fun and so active. Yeah, we're still kind of like amateur hour shit to the rest of to the Monsantos. To again, these are large global businesses. We're not there yet. We're not there. We're still far off there. We're not even legal at the federal fucking level yet. So like,
no,
until we get like some federal banking resolution, we get some DEA rescheduling, deschedule, whatever the fuck. Like we got to humble ourselves and realize that we still have a long way to go, and not kind of get too big for our britches. I think.
Agreed.
Which is tough because again, we're like. The people that are doing the good work in the biz, like we look down also on like the Delta 9 guys and the smoke shop guys. You're like, oh, you guys are fucking disgusting. You guys don't test anything. It's kind of from Missouri, whatever. Yeah.
It was when I first got my medical card. Somebody like says like, "Oh, you can't do that." I was like, "What are you talking about? It's my right. I'm a car code." I was like, "Oh wait, this is how gun activists feel. I am legally alive." And I was like, very humbling. It's like, wait, now I see why like fringe people like are so particular about like their rights that they were given because they were newly acquired or like they're like if you lose this like that's a big part of your life. And it's like to your point, it's like big picture here, like yes, we're special industry, but like let's humble ourselves and like let's just try to play nice with everybody.
100%. I think if we want to be part of the traditional business industry, we have to look and talk and walk like them. Yep. And if we come into a fucking shareholder meeting fucking smelling like some loud or coming in ripping I've gone to conferences and there's motherfuckers literally hitting the Puffco during investor presentations. And I'm just like, guys, they're not going to take us seriously. They're going to take, just like they're trying to take people's guns, they're going to take our Puffcos away, and we're going to be fucking sitting here like savages ripping fucking pre-rolls for the rest of our fucking lives. Like, stop. Yeah. Like, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And again, I think, guys like Alex and May, like when we talk about fucking beautiful spaces, we talk about professional setups, real beautiful inventory, functional glass on top of like real art, like that I think is special and unique, and not many. This is a different level of kind of heady culture appreciation, and I'm excited. I'm so happy to see that the space is looking fucking awesome. So,
agreed. Shout out Made Gallery. I do think that. In the future, there will be a big bifurcation within cannabis where there will be eventually like commodity crops for cannabis. You'll get your $20 ounce or it'll be the $300 ounce.
I don't think that should. I doubt that the human consumption. So I think it'll come down to for human consumption or not.
We'll look at I think it'd be I think especially for vapes and edibles, they're going to be harvested by row crops, grown outdoors and then just blasted, and then they're just refined into distillates, and then you're made into.
I feel like that people are going to start moving away towards consuming distillate. They might use it for a fucking patch, but like the idea that humans get any benefits from the consumption of THC only makes no fucking sense. The only benefits that we get are from full spectrum, not full spectrum, but at least larger spectrum than we're seeing now. Whether it's with the CBD, whether it's with the but like the goal of any derivative product should be to replicate the flower, right? And we cannot replicate a biodynamic flower by ripping it into just fucking into distillate. So I'm on the other side of the spectrum where I think there will be more of a market, assuming that there's education, there'll be more of a market for fucking. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get to the point where it's like we're looking at grain alcohol or we're looking at tobacco where it's like branding really makes the most difference and like packaging and shit. But like, I hope maybe I'm crazy, but I hope that the world will shun distillate products and be like, that's not for human consumption. That should be for fucking industrial uses or some shit, but not human consumption. I hope. Who knows?
I think that's a very optimistic and heady perspective. I think it's going to be very refined distillate. There's gonna be some huge organizations pumping it out. I think there's gonna be like the 20 pack of joints, kind of like the cigarettes. They're just sold everywhere. It's gonna be,
That's already there. It's already
yeah. So that's like I see it. I see it already. And it's just gonna get more and more refined. But then there's places like we're at made here. Like if you brought in a 20 pack of Delta 9 joints that was grown in Kansas or whatever, not just in Kansas, but it's just like a high producer of hemp, Oklahoma. Yeah, let's do some Oklahoma hemp in there. Like you can't bring that into a connoisseur environment. But
I went to a fucking conference, the Indigenous Cannabis Conference in DC over last year, and a vendor. We're all sitting out there. I'm sitting there with some potential clients. A vendor comes up and he's like, "Hey, you guys want to smoke a joint?" And we're all trying to like chat at the client, right? The potential client. And he's like, "Yeah, I got this at the smoke shop." And it's like Delta 8 fucking distillate infused, whatever bullshit. I had my stuff. I had some fucking beautiful organic grown, living soil, flowers. So I put this in front of the tribe first. And then he pulls out his strip. And I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why would you bring that around people and trying to entice them to talk to you and interact with you when it's like going to an alcohol conference and pulling out Pruno from the jail.
Or I saw a YouTube video where a guy went and rented a Hertz car and brought it to a car like meetup show, and everyone and it's just like a normal Chevy or something, and people come up to him being like just curious, like, why are you bringing this normal Chevy? Is there something under the hood? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm renting it for the day. And people are just like, what? And then eventually people come up to him, and other people in the group would be like, it's a rental. Get it. And everybody like, what? And just like it was so funny, like to get the reaction.
People go to go to the bar, and they're like everyone's outside smoking cigarettes on the patio, and it's like this guy brings out. I don't know. We have a responsibility to shun, and also I just said be humble and all this shit too, but like also like. Don't let people bring mids around, or at least let them know it's mids.
And also, like, that's also part of the humbleness of being like recognizing where you are in like what you're purchasing. Like if you look at, I always like it was so bizarre cannabis purchasing habits, because if anyone normally is buying off of the dollar menu, the value menu, that's the first place that a lot of people look at. They're looking at what kind of deals and special. I guess specials are not huge in dispensaries, but for whatever reason, people go to dispensaries and they're like, I want the top tier stuff, 3/8 buds, and I want to pay half of what you're paying for. It's like, no, like your budget actually is more of like, you should buy some popcorn. This one's really good. It's not going to be that, but like, it's just kind of like people have like different, like what their normal purchasing pattern. Are you normally buying designer clothes, or are you going to Marshalls usually,
or Temu, or
yeah.
Shein?
Exactly. If you're going to Shein and Temu, you're probably not the same customer who's going to be buying a Supreme $400 shirt. And so it's like, and then trying to like market to both of them. It's like, you need to recognize that you can't bring your Shein like outfit to a fashion show and expect to get the same type of cred as someone who's like rocking Supreme or whatever.
But also, like, I think fashion. No, fashion is a hard analog, because it's like, it's all the same shit. It's all made in fucking China. It's all, or Taiwan or Vietnam, whatever. I think there are substantive differences in the inputs for a good flower versus a fucking.
That's
CBD.
true.
There are substantive cost differences in post-processing, or like hand trim versus machine trim, all that shit. So I think there is justifiable reasons why, again, a gram of distillate is what it is versus why a gram of live or hash rosin is what it is.
It's like a farm to table Michelin star restaurant versus a drive through.
Like a French Laundry versus the fucking In-N-Out, right? Like,
Exactly. You know that your burger patty at In-N-Out is like probably 85% beef, right? You know, yeah, maybe there's some plastic in there. Maybe there's some others, some soy and some other kind of stuff. Definitely not going to get sponsored by In-N-Out now.
shout out In-N-Out. Shout out In-N-Out. We love you.
Style, yeah.
Animal style, fucking.
But yeah, so
processed.
but if you go to a Michelin star place and order a burger for whatever reason, you're going to expect that burger to be the perfect thing and know exactly where the which farm it came from, how the animal is cared for and taken care of. But if you go up to like McDonald's and ask, like which farm did this come from? It's like, well, this patty came probably from 8 different farms.
But also, like, fucking, there's a reason why you feel like shit after you eat 4 fucking cheeseburgers versus if you eat that one al cheval.
Yes.
Like, there is an effect, right? A final effect that's noticeable, at least for me. And I think again, now also in society as a whole, at least in the U.S., even outside the U.S., we're seeing a push towards or away from ultra processed, shelf stable, blah blah blah, and more towards closer to your source of your food. But yeah, being in Peru the better part of last year, dude, I lost a whole bunch of weight. Was eating a ton of food, and it wasn't like I was exercising. It was like obviously lifestyle choices, walking around and stuff, but like eating all the bullshit and being my GI being accustomed to all the bullshit you eat here in the U.S. and you don't even know it. Like you don't even know that the high fructose corn syrup from the fountain drink is ruining your metabolism or ruining your skin or ruining your GI and how you absorb vitamins, whatever it is. So I think we've seen a move towards that in the U.S. and I think that will shift to cannabis as well. I think it already is. I think people are justifying $100 rosin purchases at the store or again. I don't even know. Like I've been in the dispensary in a bit here in Illinois. Like people. If I see when the problem with the craft growers is, I think they're putting on their labels a whole bunch of shit. But by the time it gets sold, it's so fucking old and like crispy that it's like you're negating the premium that you're putting on your and the inputs that you did.
Yep.
Again, to your point earlier, like there's so many parts in the distribution channel where you could fuck it up, and if it sits on the shelf for too long because it's your budtenders aren't educated or empowered to sell that product correctly, and you're depending on the pop-up table once every 2 months that comes out to do, like that's tough.
And the dispensary also keeps their server in the vault, so it's like an extra 10 degrees hotter in there or something like that, or who knows what. And
there's no humidity regulation in most vaults. There's no. I mean, and the problem with was it moisture-proof packing? It might, if you have PM or whatever, like it's gonna grow in your fucking thing.
Yeah,
right?
you just create a little petri dish.
Yeah, you're gonna create a little petri dish, and the alternative is like you leave it air. It's just gonna. You smell terps. That means it's drying out, right? So there is no easy solution based off of the systems that we have now. But there are some examples of, for example, Michigan and their deli style. There are some examples, but even Michigan, they're not perfect. They have a ton of weed. They have a ton of issues that they've had with recalls. So no state has figured it out quite yet, but I'm excited to see where we're going. And again, with guys like you and me in the biz still kind of keeping our eye out. But I am blacklisted 100% by the MSOs. Like I can't go back to an MSO. They wouldn't hire me because they know that they know I've seen the sausage being made, right? They know I've been at the grinder. But that being said, I think that's a unique opportunity for brands and companies looking to get into the space that want a realistic outlook and and when they have projections here from a company in Colorado, they want someone that puts some eyes on that. That's like, hey, like this makes sense. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's hard to know what you don't know.
We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there's some things we do not know.
Yep, especially.
But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Especially if you're paying them, because if you're getting paid and you're like, well, I want to keep this cash cow alive. I don't want to tell them like their idea is bad, but like at the same time, like I should be telling it's bad because I'm a good.
It's pretty
if
bad.
You're a good, consultant.
Yeah, but I mean, again, the consulting industry sometimes is based off of giving just the right amount of good advice.
Yep.
I like to pride myself on being completely honest with my clients. And I had a craft grow partner. I wrote their app. I took a piece of equity, and I told them from the upfront, I was like, "This is a tough business model in Illinois." And again, I've put
I put offers in front of them for people to buy a license. We're talking about $1 million plus, $2 million at one point, and they're like, no, we want it. We want to build it out. And those was how long? Those were issued 4 years ago, and they're just getting construction started now.
That's crazy.
So like I think also there's been, at least with my clients and people even non-clients, like they've seen an emotional connection to these businesses. You have to take your emotions outside of the business. You cannot say, hey, no, this is retribution for years of it, no, and all this shit, and I'm gonna create this business to pass it along to my kids. This is not a fucking family pizza shop. You're talking about a craft grow where the premise of a craft grow, the limitations in terms of canopy of a craft grow are tough. Yep. The math is not going to math out, right?
No, and also to have like a state designated craft grow where like craft is usually like a quality 100%. Perspective, not necessarily like, well, I only have 5,000 square feet or 1,400, whatever it is.
You're just getting people growing corporate weeds though, just at a tenth of the size.
Yeah, smaller. Yeah,
and even less than a tenth because most of these guys aren't even building out fully. So I think, and then also the whole idea that you're going to be vertically integrated. I'm like, dude, you don't have 3 stores and 14,000 square feet of canopy. How are you going to be vertically integrated exactly? I don't know, man. Yeah, stuff. So I wrote a lot of apps for some of the social equity guys up front on the first and the second round. And my advice was them like, sell the paper as soon as possible. There is no other industry where you will make millions of dollars from a piece of paper with no assets, with no cash flow, with no nothing. Yeah. There are a few industries that you were able to do that with, and a lot of the folks did not take the advice.
No.
Built out, did all this shit, raised money.
Humble.
And they were just like, they hired me to do the work and they didn't listen to my advice. So now they're in the space where it's like, oh, Renzo, like, we're building out, or Renzo, what should we do with this license? I was like, dude, I told you years ago to fucking sell it when it was actually worth something.
I don't know what to do with it now.
Yeah.
Like, this is past what my advice is.
No, and like right now, again, the value of the licenses has not gone up. It's gone the other way. It's going down. So I think people just have to be realistic. Yeah. They have to be realistic and take more of and take their emotions out of the cannabis industry. We're almost passionate to a fault, and we take this historical context to it as well. Yeah. We have a historical thing of like injustice to Black and brown communities. I get that, but that same token is that like, what other industry have we gotten licenses handed to us like this in the way that we have now? And what other industry have we fucked up the opportunities that we've had as Black and brown folks to close that wealth gap, right? And again, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying shit like that, but I'm like, still, like, we had opportunities to sell papers for millions of dollars, and now they're worth portions of that. They're not worth what they used to be worth, because timing is everything in every business. Timing is everything, and you had people that in Arizona that were selling stores that were spitting out like $2 million a year. They were selling them for 5x revenue. That's $10 million. That's $10 million, and not stock. We're talking about cash. Those guys made out like bandits because they had 10 stores, 8 stores, right? And they weren't waiting for the next big thing because they had familiarity in business in general, and they didn't have an emotional connection to the cannabis industry or their businesses. So it's crazy to think about the extreme examples on both ends of the people that made out like bandits and the people that took a lot of stock on their buyouts, and now those companies don't exist or are about to go, whatever it is. Like I've seen, it's crazy to see the delta between the good examples and the bad. It's just fucking crazy in cannabis. And for me, it's just been very enlightening in terms of like not getting too big for our bridges, checking our ego as an industry, because it's so easy for our shit to get, because it's so cool. It's so cool to be new and to be fucking growing. It's so fucking cool, but it's also, it could be a trap.
It's a trap.
So just like, let's be humble. Let's everyone just humble out. We still have a way to go. Let's still continue to do good work. It's not to say we don't need to be passionate, but let's continue doing the work. Like, let's do less MJ Biz, less MJ BizCon, more building businesses, sustainable businesses that are going to be around. Or that private equity will come up and buy, or whatever CPG will come and buy, because that's the real money. The real money isn't in the operating of these businesses. With the current tax situation, given what it is, we can't survive like that. So what is the next best option? Let's sell it to the next guy.
It's not a very conducive lifestyle business.
No, it's also, let's talk about the work-life balance. It never existed.
Balance?
Yeah, there is no balance. And I think
realizing that not having that balance just fucks up performance. Like we do worse work when we're not focusing on our health or our personal lives, whatever it is, or negating it or putting it on the back burner.
It was like you can't see the forest from the trees. If you're always there, just like focus, you can't like take that step back and be like, oh yeah, maybe I should have sold this license, or like you're so focused on your own business, you don't even like talk to other people that are running parallel to you, but you're all doing your own kind of thing.
And again, I've heard some of the craziest backstabbing stories in cannabis as well. Like I have a buddy that teamed up with, on paper, this guy was legit. And I'm not going to say any names, but this legit guy has stores in Illinois. Basically just backstabbed. Very good friend of mine backstabbed him completely and like pushed him out of the business. Obviously they're going to take him to court. They're going to do a whole bunch of shit. But seeing that, I was like, man, it's also like it's so imperative that you know who you're getting into business with.
Yep.
And just because you went to school with them fucking 10 years ago, you guys both went to fucking whatever Ivy League, doesn't mean shit.
I had a friend once that asked for like a work recommendation, and like I had like a bigger world revelation. It's like, I've worked with very few of my actual friends. I actually don't know what their work ethic is like. I know them as their friend. I know how they interact with other people, like their spouses and partners. I don't know how you work with a boss. I don't know how it is like if you show up on time or not. And then so it's just kind of like, huh. And then you do work with some of the people, and you're like, oh man, like you're different at work than you are here, or like you're way more engaged at work than you are in your own. Like so, it's just it is very different. So yeah. Make sure you do your research.
I'm like, even you have brothers, right? I'm like, even with my brothers, I'm like, oh fuck, like how, like I love my brothers to death. I want to make that very clear. I love you guys, but fuck, like, I don't know if I could work with my brothers. Right? One, because it's like I'm the middle of three. I don't know if my little brother, my older brother. I'm like, I don't know if my older brother would be able to take off his older brother hat.
Yeah.
And be an employee, and be my employee, let alone like.
Because you come in with those relationships.
Yeah. And then like you just have all the shit from your family. So that's why I'm like I've wanted to work with my family for so long. But yeah, we'll see because I'm like, fuck, I don't know. Yep. I don't know how to manage that. And then like if I fire my older brother,
yeah, what does that happen?
How the fuck, like how's that gonna work? I don't know, but yeah, I think there is something to be said about being able to trust your brothers and your family more than you would any Joe Schmo on the street that you hire. Agreed. But also again, on the other end,
catch-22.
Or you can fire that dude, the dude you don't fucking like, or the dude that fucks up the job. Like if you fire him, it's not gonna like you don't have to see him every fucking day or every other week.
Yeah, it doesn't get awkward at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, or if it does get awkward, it's like, well, fucking, I don't know, man. You should have just done a better job, bro. Like, I'm that end. I'm like, Eric, I love you. My brother's Eric, my older brother. Like, Eric, I love you. If you get fucking fired, like, sorry, you just weren't a good fit.
Yeah.
Nothing personal. Literally, it couldn't be personal because if it was personal, I would have left you on. So, I don't know. I think hiring family, getting into business with friends is tough. It's it's a risk though. Any getting into business with anyone is a risk. Family, friend, otherwise. But I think it's good. At least the approach that I've had is like finding good people in the weed industry. Yep. Keeping them around, like keeping in contact with them.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, finding the good people is the hardest part. And when you find the good people that do good work, that are interested in the biz, that have a long-term engagement, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. So looking ahead to the future, is there anything you're excited for? Yeah,
so I'm putting together an interesting project. I'm working on a co-packing business for some drinks.
Nice.
I think I see direct to consumer continuing to be a big thing. I'm seeing the MSOs roll out their own drinks.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to do a great job of it. So I think they're really focused on their dispensary businesses, and the drinks business is a completely different beast. They're talking about selling into convenience stores, selling into doing direct to consumer, obviously, and also selling into smoke shops and all these other stores that they don't really have control over. Like they don't really have that leverage that they have with the dispensary sale.
Yeah.
So I'm making a bet on myself that my wholesale skills are going to be way better. My brands are going to be way better. But yeah, putting together a co-packing drinks kind of specialty business here in the Midwest. Because right now, as it stands, people are getting drinks mailed in from Delaware, from California, from Florida,
wherever.
And it's not the Midwest. I think there's some Minnesota co-packers as well, but I think there's something unique about being able to have your production closer to your customers. So putting that together, I mentioned the book, releasing the book.
E-book.
Yeah, the e-book's coming out today. Check it out, Chef Mejia 420. That'll be out today. today's what, March? This will go out what, March? I don't know.
It'll go on in like a week or so.
Yeah, so today's March 7th. So yeah, as of in March, it'll be on my Instagram. It'll be my link. Check it out. And basically we just talk about, the book is very clear. Like, hey, it tells you details in the detail how cannabis companies can go down in value 99% and still be big businesses.
Yep.
So that'll be out. And again, me with my experience at some of the big MSOs, I think it's just it's an interesting take on why we're at where we're at, and hopefully kind of informs us on the path forward. But also working on some commercialization projects with some clients. So if you have people that say, hey Renzo, I have an idea for a new delivery method, I have an idea for a new brand, or if you already have that and I want to go into a different market,
Yep.
or if you want to sell your brand, or if you want to expand your brand, that's maybe you find yourself in Oklahoma, you want to be in New York or Jersey or Florida, whatever it is. With my background in M&A, in licensing, in commercialization already, I thought it'd be great to offer that to clients that want to get and expand their businesses. And again, there's always brands that want to expand out east. That west to east flow is constant. So I figured, hey, why not kind of specialize in that? But have been working, for example, worked with a client out in the East Hamptons last year. So I'm doing a lot more international work. So the CBD kind of international thing is kind of getting big. Those medical markets are up and coming. They need cost-efficient and effective medical grade options, CBD being a big part of that. So looking at that. And yeah, I'm just looking for opportunities. Always looking for opportunities at this point. So still have my entrepreneur hat on and working and looking at opportunities all over. So if you want to expand your business, if you want to break into a new market, let me know. So Mejia Strategies on LinkedIn. But yeah, Chef Mejia 420 is my Instagram. Hit me up. Yeah, anything I can do to help. But I'm based here in Chicago, as you know, Felix. Always open to having a coffee with folks, lunch with folks that want to grow their businesses, that have a cool idea, want to see if it has legs. I will tell you straight up if it doesn't, and if it does. And if it does, happy to connect the dots on financing, on commercialization, key like production, everything you need to get your brand into people's hands, basically. I have already done, and that's what I do for clients now. So excited to continue that work, and yeah, just keeping my entrepreneur hat on, always looking for opportunities, and looking to work with good people more than anything. You can't do good business with bad people, so that's kind of where my head's at. It's like I want to do good business with good people, and there's I think there's still a lot of us out there that are still looking for that next opportunity. But my entrepreneur hat is fully on right now, and I can't take it off even more.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for chatting. This has been great.
Thank you for having me on.